If you told me to, I would slather it on my wiener. I would slather it on Walter's wiener.
The most alpha male poster on X.com.
I went undercover to the No Kings protest. I was undercover as a transgender. I was wearing a dress, wearing makeup. I was very, very beautiful. Many men offered to take me out. I didn't want to lead them on falsely. Perhaps I should have. The fact that they were at the No Kings protest meant they were a beta male. They need alpha guidance, so perhaps I should have taken them up on their offer, but I didn't. But at the No Kings protest, I saw someone in Oak Park, Illinois, which is right by where I live, had a sign that said President Trump puts ketchup on his hot dog or on his wiener. I took a picture of this person. Frankly, I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman. She was wearing pink, but kind of masculine in appearance. I couldn't say for sure. I didn't get close enough to inspect up close, but I saw the sign. And first of all, the whole No Kings thing is baloney. The real kings are the federal judges, the federal judiciary, who are overturning the elected president every chance they get. He's trying to deport someone who's not only illegal, but illegal and a rapist and a drug dealer and a child molester and a car thief and a carjacker, linebacker. Well, maybe that's okay, but these are really bad guys. And Trump's like, okay, you go to El Salvador. Judge Sharon Patel Dershowitz, who became a citizen in December of 2024 and was appointed by Biden in January of 2025, says, no, you can't deport Alejandro Rape Muchowitz or Rape Mucho, whatever his name is. You can't do that. Mr. Mucho Rape has to stay here, not to be confused with Zorape, which is what Zoran's friends call him. He's very pro-rape. Those are the real kings and queens, although some of these judges, it's hard to tell if they're a king or a queen. If they're men, they're so beta that they appear to be women. If they're women, they wish they were a man. Most women do, are very masculine in appearance, which, masculine is a good thing in men, but with women, you can sometimes be a red flag. If they are a natural woman, a biological woman, then that's not the best thing. So we're at the No Kings rally. I see the sign. It says Donald Trump puts ketchup on his wiener, and that's a Chicago insult. This was in a suburb of Chicago, because in Chicago, traditionally you don't put ketchup on your hot dog. You put mustard along with relish and onions and a pickle and a tomato, WD-40 and whatnot. I don't care if Donald Trump puts ketchup on his hot dog. I don't put ketchup on my hot dog, but if you told me to, I would slather it on my wiener. I would slather it on Walter's wiener. In fact, Walter's coming out with a new brand. He's running for Secretary of State, but he's opened his own restaurant called Walter's Wieners. So if anyone would like to try Walter's Wiener, we're having a grand opening. I'm proud to announce that President Trump will be there, and he will personally slather ketchup on Walter's Wiener. Everyone will get a taste. If you would like to meet President Trump and Walter and me and would like to taste Walter's Wiener with ketchup, I'll be tweeting very soon the grand opening of Walter's Wieners on the west side. We're very W heavy right now because all I do is win, so I'm all about the W's. Just stay tuned for that. It's a place for alpha males to congregate with each other and celebrate Walter's Wiener, which is a very juicy wiener.
Walter's Wieners. Walter's Wieners. Big buns and juicy wieners.
Women, because of woke laws that hopefully will be overturned, we can't turn away women, but why would we? They're allowed to make money for whatever reason they are, and that's fine. We love women. Some of us are married to women. I encourage everyone to get married to a woman. When you're married to a woman, you don't even have to spend that much time with her. Just kiss her and once in a while. That's good. Keeps her happy. What women like is when you're an alpha male. So alpha males are leaders. They congregate with other men. You have to get a group of alpha males. Each of you take turns being on top, so to speak, of the other alpha males, being the big dog of them, the leader of the pack. And then you send it to your wives, and then she'll say, oh, wow, look at these other men that he's dominating. Whether you're married to a woman or whether you just, you're looking for one, and so you're on Tinder or one of these other apps, these gynocentric apps, post that picture, share it.
Sounds like you're hanging out with Walter 24/7.
I do have more friends than Walter. I may introduce them. I don't know if my followers can handle it. That might be just like too much masculinity. When men encounter too much masculinity, their reaction is to literally become a woman. And this happens with fish. When like a beta male and an alpha male, sometimes like the fish can actually turn into a woman. I don't want my followers to become trans, so that's why I've only really posted me and Walter. But there's a bigger Perry multiverse, alpha male multiverse. So I would recommend inoculating yourself from potentially becoming trans because of this. By having a Walter Wiener going to the grand opening, President Trump will be there again. He just got back from Japan. He's very excited. I talk with President Trump every day, actually. I saw the Supreme Court was considering overturning Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. It's a racist law. It says that there has to be racial considerations when drawing congressional districts. It was back in the 60s when JFK was shot. So, people said, well, because of that, we have to set in motion the process of certain civil rights laws that'll lead to basically like white people being raped and murdered and everything. But people said 50 years later, 60 years later, okay, maybe we went too far in that direction. So the Supreme Court will likely be overturning that part of the Voting Rights Act. Congressional seats will have to be redrawn. And I had a tweet a couple of weeks ago where I said, hey, states should get ahead of this. They should start passing the new maps now and say, okay, if the Supreme Court overturns it, this new law will take into effect, like they did with when Roe versus Wade got overturned. And I saw in Politico today, southern states actually said they will be doing that. I was really the first person to say that. I'm in regular communication with Donald Trump. I know, even if you won't acknowledge it, I know that it's true. That it's something, something we have together, something very tender. Not Tinder that we talked about earlier, but it's very tender. That's why we're able to get up to the grand opening of Walter's Wieners. President Trump, he sometimes, when he gives a speech, he goes on tangents. He says what he calls it is the weave. He always comes back to the beginning, but sometimes the story flows and it goes different directions. I learned a lot from that. Again, it's a very high IQ podcast, perhaps the most high IQ podcast. I don't even know who else is out there. Yeah, I guess you could listen to Tucker and Nick Fuentes discuss autogynephilia if that's up your alley.
You were in a group chat with Nick Fuentes. What was that like?
Nick Fuentes and I were in a group chat called the Dollhouse, Pariah the Dolls group chat. And, you would think there's a lot of discussion on, oh, you're so beautiful. Not me telling Nick that or Nick telling I that, but us telling these certain kind of ladies that are in the group chat, a very special kind of lady. Our conversations there are mostly about food places in the western suburbs of Chicago, about Italian beef and hot dogs. And there's a place by me called Johnny's that I like for Italian beef. When I said Johnny's, Nick Fuentes said, oh, Johnny sucks. Don't know why he would say that. I took that very hurtfully. That felt very hurtful to me. But he likes a place called Chickies in Broadview. So if any of our listeners are in the western, anywhere in the Chicagoland area, we can do a beef tour. I've actually got Nick Fuentes lined up for this. He's willing to go out of his house, which he doesn't usually do. We'll basically have a beef off, and we'll see who's the beef master of Chicago.
Will Stancil and his cartoon has taken over the timeline. What should alpha males draw from this?
Jamal has his catchphrase, which is, it do be like that, Mr. Stancil. People think it's fictional, but no, Jamal's real. I should say Jamal was real. He died very similarly to George Floyd, also in Minneapolis, because, EBT got cut off by the evil Republicans, and he had to use a counterfeit money to buy a banana, and, one thing led to another, and he couldn't breathe, and there were riots, and Will Stancil, was a leader of the riots. Will Stancil is beloved by Black people, as I am. That's a very important first step. That's a way to get credibility to become an alpha male, because Black people, Black men, Black women too, are very masculine. Will is in many ways a beta male. He's a Democrat. He's a very unfortunate kind of Democrat. He doesn't like white people. He eats boneless wings. I think it was a tweet from 2016. I quote tweeted of Will Stancil's where he was complaining that a local restaurant got rid of the boneless wings and replaced it with like steak sandwiches and burgers. One thing interesting about that 2016 tweet is the price of the steak sandwich was only like $5 and onion rings were only like $2, which shows, the horrible inflation caused by Joe Biden. As we record this, Joe Biden is still alive. I can't guarantee that, when this is actually posted, he'll still be alive. He's a very day-to-day individual in that regard. He could die, he could come back. Who really cares anymore? He's probably not going to run in 2028, although, maybe he will. The Democratic slate isn't too exciting, too invigorating. It's an unfortunate thing about Will, but he was complaining about, boneless wings, I should say. And Nick Adams famously said, it starts with boneless wings and Fortnite and ends with communism and gender pronouns. And not only was he eating boneless wings, he was complaining that the bar got rid of them. He needs help. He needs bones in his life. I need to be his professional boner. Boner, boner. It's a noun form of a verb. I put bones in him. As Will Stancil's boner, I will have him eating bone in wings, not boneless wings, but wings with bones. He has his boner. I will have him eating all, T-bone steaks. He needs to be boned. I need to bone Will Stancil. That's his issue. No man has boned him. No alpha male has boned him and spread alpha maleness to him. I will do that for him. Maybe, Jamal, if he weren't killed by the police, the real life Jamal could have done that for him. I know the fictional Jamal, we all love him. He's still with us, but the real life Jamal, his name was actually George Floyd. He died, and that's sad. And we all mourned him. We all touched his gold casket. I certainly did. But Jamal's not around anymore. The real life Jamal is, in the cartoon he is. And I'm glad he can survive or he can thrive. He can rest in power. That's the most important thing for black people. A lot of black people die for various reasons: diabetes, getting killed by other black people, a 0.00001% chance of getting killed by a police officer. But of course, if that happens, we all need to burn down libraries and whatnot and loot Gucci stores, which is just what you do. Given that he doesn't have Jamal, I'll step up. I'll be his boner. I'll have him eating bone and wings. I'll put the bones in him. Will Stancil will become an alpha male, and then he'll embrace the cartoon. He's called Emily Eucas a neo-Nazi and whatnot, which is unfair. She's a very beautiful woman. I appreciate the beauty of females, and she possesses that, which my wife does as well. And I'm very happy that I have a wife who is attractive to me as an alpha male, and I think I can make him. Excuse me, my voice is getting a little raspy. I think I need Perry Podcast needs a sponsor for some lozenge for not I use the nicotine lozenges, but some kind of throat lozenge. All we really have lined up is the $7,000 from Israel, which we'll get to that segment later about all the great Tel Aviv Pride this month. But besides Israel, we have to branch out to more sponsors, and we will. But I think I can lay my hands on Will Stancil, make him feel things he as a man hasn't felt, that no other man has made him feel. I can do that for him. He has had girlfriends in the past, which is good, but this is advice to alpha males in general. If you have a girlfriend, just marry her. What are you doing? You're not gonna. You're thinking, oh, I'll find someone better, but it's it's just a woman. You don't find excellence in women. You find excellence in men. She's, female. She has 2 X chromosomes. Just marry her. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Perfection in women isn't a thing. Like, excellence in women isn't a thing. You find that in men, and you can continue to look for that in men, but just get married so you don't have to think about women anymore. It's just okay, that's my woman. Okay, these other women exist. God bless them, but yeah, I don't care about you. I don't care what you think and your opinions on, oh, children are getting tear gassed by ICE. I don't care what you think. You're a woman. I already have a woman. I don't what do you go away from me? I want to talk to other men who think seriously about things and oh, these illegals, no matter how old they are, why are they here? We have to deport them. They're draining money from that I could spend, whether I spend it or whether President Trump's in control of it. I just don't want it. Why are we giving it to illegals? Will Stancil's had girlfriends in the past. He didn't marry them for whatever reason. I could find him one. Thanks to Emily. Emily's, already married, so Will can't marry Emily, but Emily made him an international celebrity that makes women wet. Longtime listeners of this podcast know when women are attracted to men, they get wet. I've talked to so many women who've said, I asked them about Will Stancil incidentally a year ago. None of them said he made them wet. Now they all do. Will's got to marry a woman to just get that out of the way so he can focus on manly pursuits and start eating bone and wings, and then he'll become a true alpha male.
You tweeted about Dua Lipa wearing safety pins as earrings, saying, Albanian women wear safety pins as earrings, so they're always ready to pick a lock. What's your favorite thing about the Albanians?
I actually go to an Albanian church. I'm an Orthodox Christian, Greek Orthodox, but I go to an Albanian Orthodox church. They have an icon of Mary that cried a couple times, and normally you don't believe Albanians, but in this case I do because, it involves the Mother of God. With regards to that, I'll trust an Albanian. With regards to, fixing my car or repairing my watch or, coming into my house, not so much, but with that I would. That tweet was about Dua Lipa. She's, very talented and beautiful. Although she went woke at one point, she had a song with DaBaby, Levitating or something like that. DaBaby is a black man, even though his name's DaBaby. He's like a full grown man, black man, and a rapper. And we all love DaBaby. Everyone I talk to loves DaBaby. At Rolling Loud one year, he said something to the effect of, my fans are classy. They don't have AIDS. They're not sucking dick in the parking lot. People said, "Oh, that's homophobic." I don't really understand how. And I think his response was, I have gay fans, but they're classy gay fans. They have gay sex in hotel rooms, 5-star hotel rooms, not in parking lots, not in the middle of the street and whatnot. And they don't have AIDS. They don't have HIV. The gay community being against alpha males, unfortunately, or really all you have to do is just say, just accept being alpha, and then, many of these homosexuals would probably realize they really are alpha. Even though they think they're homosexual, I think, again, they could marry a woman and not worry about that anymore. Dua Lipa, when the homosexual community was attacking DaBaby, she unfortunately sided with the homosexual community. Now, she is very beautiful. A lot of alpha males said, well, I guess she did it for her career because a lot of homosexuals listen to her music, which is true. And perhaps that's a problem with pop music, that the problem is it's not so much that homosexuals listen to it. They think that the homosexual opinion matters. Really, homosexuals want to be dictated to. They want a strong man to, kind of pick them up, throw them around, have their way with him, turn him into an alpha. I mean, I had another tweet about, it had pictures of Chapel Roan and Sabrina Carpenter sans makeup. For those of you in Rio Linda, sans means without. Those of you who don't know what the Rio Linda reference is, that's a reference to Rush Limbaugh, rest in peace. He was a true alpha male. He got married to 4 women, not at the same time, but he was a patriot. It was them without makeup, but they're like, whoa, these are like beautiful women. But because the music industry thinks they have to cater to homosexuals, they have these women wear basically drag queen makeup. Dua Lipa thankfully hasn't done that. Well, gay men are like wayward boys. They want a spanking. They don't want to be listened to. They prefer their stars be homophobic. Azalea Banks, she has a massive gay fan base, and she's very homophobic. That's what they want. Women are like that too, honestly. Maybe we'll talk more about women at some point, but like Democrats too, like gays, women, Democrat, the whole like beta multiverse. You have to stop listening to them. You have to stop catering to them. They say things, but they don't really want you to listen to them. They want to be, they want to be slapped. They want to be spanked. And, we all do, but I mean, they really do. That's kind of what they're looking for in life. There are some Albanian strongmen, going back to the Albanian topic, there are some Albanian strongmen. Perhaps the reason that the Albanian girls who've done well in pop, Rita Ora, Dua Lipa, BB Rexa, there's another one, but they've been pretty feminine. They haven't done this drag queen thing. I think that's because the Albanian mafia that, runs that part of the music industry, they are alpha males, and they like put their foot down. They don't listen to the opinions of women and homosexuals and beta males writ large. They just say, no, we like women to be beautiful. The average alpha male, when he sees a naked woman, he starts thinking about the beautiful clothes he can design for her, like dresses and whatnot, and how he can style her hair. That's the normal reaction to make women beautiful, not cake her up in makeup, drag queen makeup. I mean, that's something for men. Men put on like drag queen makeup. Why would you want a woman to? Why would we want to share that with women? We need to be more like, the Albanian mafia at the end of the day.
You recently congratulated George Santos on his pardon after being in solitary confinement for months. Is George Santos an alpha male?
George Santos is one of the greatest alpha males, under 40, so to, let's say. Step back. First of all, he didn't do anything wrong, because what he's accused of doing is misspending campaign funds. You have to think, why do you donate to a campaign? You donate to a campaign so the candidate can win. What did I was about to say George Floyd. What did George Santos do? George Santos won. So it doesn't matter if he spent the money on jewelry or clothes. I think at one point they said he spent it on OnlyFans. If they're trying to insult him, he wouldn't need that. But let's not talk about his personal life. Let's just focus on that he's an alpha male and he lives the personal life of an alpha male. I think all alpha males should model their lifestyle after George Santos. Many do already. I certainly do. He was persecuted for winning. That's what he did. He won. He won his election. He's a Republican who won a congressional seat in New York City and the suburbs by it. The Biden administration said, oh, we can't have that. We need cities to be totally democratically controlled. We need to have pro-rape candidates like Zohran Mamdani run democratic cities. And George Santos, he was 100% pro-MAGA record. I think, President Trump should pardon all people who truly, even if they were, former liberals, if they had a true conversion, acknowledge President Trump as the savior of America, greatest president in history. I think he should show mercy to them, much like Jesus does. He sent Donald Trump to basically, Jesus is in heaven. He's alive in that sense. He resurrected, but he's not corporeally here on earth. But Donald Trump is because, Jesus Christ sent him. When one gives up their heart and lives for President Trump, he should show mercy upon them, just as when one does that with Jesus, he rewards you with eternal life in heaven. With President Trump, it should be manumission from the chains of the federal penitentiary system. I'm glad he's out because again, he did nothing wrong. He won. As someone who is thinking about running for mayor of Chicago, I'm sort of looking at modeling my life after him as a because you have to think, how can Republicans win in cities? And who is a Republican who has won in a big city recently? Well, the prime example is George Floyd winning in New York City for a congressional seat. I mean, hopefully Curtis Lewa wins for the mayor's race. It seems like a long shot, but I think all right wingers should try to be like George Floyd because that's how we save our cities.
You posted that Obama's presidential library looks like the Kaaba. Have you driven by it or seen it in person?
I have not seen it. I've seen Obama, but I haven't seen his library. It is in a park with public restrooms, so I imagine Obama probably is close by. If I go there, I could probably find him in the park, or he may be, right next to it on a prayer mat facing it. It's like a taller square. It's a little taller than the Kaaba. If they were building the Kaaba today, if Muhammad was doing that, if Muhammad were alive today, he'd probably be launching something like Andrew Tate's Hustlers University, which I'll have my version very soon, Alpha Academy, Alpha Community College, or something like that. It does look like a Kaaba. Brandon Johnson, being inspired by Zohran Mamdani, has said that all Chicagoans will be required to pray 5 times a day towards the Obama monument. It's a change of pace, but then again, to some extent, it's like, well, you get to take a break a few times a day. Sure, you have to bow and whatnot. If I win as mayor, I don't think I'll continue that policy. That's kind of a Brandon special. I don't necessarily think I would demolish it. I would probably put signs around it. I would seize it from the Obama Foundation. I would call it the Larry Sinclair Center to honor. He recently passed away, Larry Sinclair. He was on Tucker a couple of years ago. He claimed to have had rendezvous with President Obama at, in hotels in Gurnee, Illinois, and in bathhouses and whatnot. A lot of people didn't believe him, but he had a press conference at the National Press Club in 2007 or 2008. A lot of people dismissed him, but thankfully Tucker Carlson, when he left Fox News and began his show on X, one of his first guests was Larry Sinclair. Some people said, oh, that's, why are you doing this? Why aren't you talking about trade policy or, something boring like that? Well, actually, I mean, he did talk about trade policy because among homosexuals and transgenders, there is a word called trade, and trade is a man who lives his life as a heterosexual. It's a lot like Down Low, but he'll have like Grindr and he'll look to have relations with homosexual bottoms or transgenders. It is a trade center. It should be called the Obama Trade Center. I have Grindr for research purposes, and I do notice it's a hotspot, the new Obama library. In some sense, that's against the Muslim religion, but if you actually look at Afghanistan, they have, despite it being not quite Quranic, they still engage in what they call Abbasi. The Obama Center will be a center for that. I'll be there, to kind of monitor the situation. And when I'm there, I'll end the practice of praying 5 times a day towards it, but it'll be the Larry Sinclair Center, and we will honor Larry by doing cocaine 5 times a day in its direction, which he said Obama did with him in a hotel in Gurnee, Illinois. We may run out of cocaine, but we'll find something else, some other white substance to put inside of us for 5 times a day.
There's that photo of you with Governor J.B. Pritzker. Where was that taken, and what was the meeting like?
So J.B. Pritzker, he's the governor of Illinois. He has, a few Republican opponents. So Walter's not actually running for governor. He's running for Secretary of State against Alexei Janulius, who's a Greek man who used to play basketball with Obama. I say that, playing basketball isn't a euphemism yet. Well, playing basketball with Obama will become a euphemism for something else. I met J.B. Pritzker. So this was in 2018. He was the governor-elect at the time. He was not the governor yet. It was at a fundraiser in the West Loop part of Chicago, fundraiser for a candidate, or, elected official I know, and a Puerto Rican elected official. I recommend everyone get to know Puerto Rican elected officials. They're very Puerto Rican. When I met him, I think he saw me and he said, "I'm not the alpha anymore. This man is the alpha." I think he was intimidated by me. If you do a green line analysis, I think I win that picture. I haven't done one, but I have a green line consultant. I pay him $10,000 a month. I hope my wife isn't listening to this because she might be mad about that. But I do. It's very important. I don't post any pictures on X until my green line consultant approves it. And sometimes while I'm taking pictures of people, I have an app. I don't know if everyone has this, but it's an app that as soon as I take a picture, he gets it. Like, I don't have to send it to him. He gets, like, I take a picture, boom, it's in front of him. He stops everything. He tells me if the green lines are good or not. If they're not good, we retake them until the green lines are good. I showed that picture to my green line consultant. He said, yeah, this is, you mogged. That's an expression you'll see online on websites like X.com. He said, you mogged J.B. Pritzker. And I said, I did. That should have entitled me to become the governor, but he's the governor because he bought it. And it's not like he earned the money. He's like an heir to the Hilton. Is it Hilton or Hyatt? No, not Hilton. Hyatt Hotel Fortune, because like Paris Hilton's the heir of the Hilton Fortune, and we all saw her video. It was very nice. Her body in the sign was one that alpha males could approve of. As an heir of the Hyatt Hotel Fortune, he's worth like $4 billion. So he just bought the governor's mansion, and he likes being governor. He wants to be president. Very pro-illegal. He's very pro-transgender. With regards to ICE in Illinois and the Border Patrol in Illinois, allegedly anyone who looks Hispanic is being, deported to CCOT in El Salvador. I mean, it came down to a situation where actually have an alderman. He's gay. He's Latino. His name's Ray Lopez. My wife has a picture with him. I took that picture. I'm not a cuck because he's homosexual, so that's not a threatening situation. Like, oh, I'm taking a picture of my wife with another man. I'm taking a picture of my wife with a homosexual, so that's okay. So stop bragging me about that. She loves him. I do too. He said in January, Ray Lopez, and he's on Fox News a lot. He's ostensibly a Democrat, but he goes on Fox News a lot. He's very conservative. He's an alpha male. He has a husband, but that's just to help him get elected as an alpha male in a Democratic city. It's difficult. It can be difficult. So he said back in January that, look, Chicago is a sanctuary law. We need to modify it so that we can turn over the gangbangers and the rapists and the murderers to ICE so they can be deported. Otherwise, they're going to come in like heavy. And Brandon Johnson said, no, we're not modifying it. We support the rapists. Chicago is a sanctuary city for rapists. If you rape a woman anywhere in the world, come to Chicago and basically you can run free. Now, you might get raped by another rapist because there's a lot of rapists around. So you run that risk in Chicago if you're a rapist. One, you can rape women and children to your heart's desire, but because there's so many other rapists, you might get raped. Perhaps you live with that risk. That's what Brandon Johnson campaigned on, and he won until Iran wins. We're the rape capital of America, where even the rapists get raped. I'll just say I don't support rape of like women or children. Brandon Johnson said, no, we're not modifying the sanctuary city law. So ICE came in heavy. The Border Patrol came in heavy. They're tear gassing and they're, arresting tamale ladies and whatnot. And like Brandon Johnson or J.B. Pritzker, he supports that, supports that policy. So it's unfortunate. I gave him my number. We met a couple times afterwards, at various Hyatt hotels, very nice rooms, presidential suites, honestly, because he owns a company. He didn't listen to me policy-wise, and it's a shame. I think it's just because he he believes himself to be the alpha of Illinois, but he's not. He's just not. I am, and I think I proved that in those Hyatt hotel rooms after we took that picture together.
Speaking of Chicago, you tweeted, "In 2001, I teabagged Richard Hanania in the Chicago suburbs."
I think Richard Hanania does remember when I teabagged him in 2001, and the reason I know that is because he keeps his hair to look like my pubic hair. It's, exactly like that, and I think that's a tribute to when I had my testicles on him. He wants to remember that, so he keeps his hair very parapubic. That's a new adjective. I think all the kids are using parapubic. People do this with video games. They teabag, but in 2001, the video games we had were like Mario 64 or something. I don't even remember. And so you couldn't teabag in Mario 64. We all tried. I mean, GoldenEye, Crash Bandicoot, T Bandicoot, I get T-Bagacoot. We were trying forever to teabag in games. Finally, we could later, but it was kind of like too late for me and Richard Hanania. We were both born in the mid 80s. By the time video games would let you teabag, we just moved on to other things, installing video cameras in women's restrooms and things like that, which, not that we were perverts, but just that was kind of what the technology, that was the cutting edge of technology at the time. And we were both very smart people, and we would basically want to just stay ahead of things. If we could have teabagged in a video game, we would have, but we couldn't. So we had to do it IRL in real life. He's Palestinian. There's a big Palestinian community in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, like Bridgeview, Oak Lawn. I would travel there in a caravan because, of course, it's a Middle Eastern community there. So I would, travel there bringing spices from the Orient and whatnot. And, they would trade dates. And in the middle of these exchanges, I saw young Richard, young Dick, and I love young Dick. He had a little bit too much hookah and drank a little too much. And while he was asleep, and I saw his mouth was open. This is a lesson: don't breathe from your mouth, because mouth breathers become the victims of mouth ballers. I shouldn't say victim. We reenact it every year. Just last month, I was over visiting Richard Hanania. We, just kind of did things for old time's sake. He hasn't pressed any charges. The most famous teabagging incident was after a NCAA football national championship between Alabama and Louisiana State University. I don't remember what year this was, but afterwards, a fan of one team, I think an LSU fan, teabagged an Alabama fan, and he was criminally convicted for it. I think he's still registered as a sex offender, and ESPN, the magazine, did a 100,000-word story about the teabagging incident in New Orleans. And there's pictures of them, like, looking in the distance, like the victim, like, oh, I'm half the man I was before, and the perpetrator, looking very, regretting what he had done. It was kind of like a big deal in the 2000s that there was this teabagging incident. A lot of YNs might not know about it, but you can. Most of you are Googling teabagging anyway. I know I know what it's like to be young and full of testosterone. But when you're Googling about teabagging, look at the Alabama LSU teabagging, especially the ESPN, the magazine article. And if I went to journalism school, I would want to write stories about teabagging. So whichever reporter got to write that story, that's what you live for. That's why you go to journalism school. That's why you get an internship. Writing like that can't be replaced by AI. The journalism profession is very, like many professions, they're worried about being replaced by AI. AI cannot write a story about teabagging the way an alpha male can. So if you are an alpha male and you would like to be a journalist, and we need alpha male journalists, because most of them are just basically regurgitate ADL and SPLC talking points. They're very horrible people. We've talked about stochastic terrorism. I think if I'm a journalist and if I'm an alpha male journalist and I want stories to write about, I would start by tweeting a lot about teabagging, because then you're an agent of stochastic teabagging, because the more you talk about it, the more teabagging incidents occur. This is how you survive in the AI world. Like, AI is taking all our jobs. If you're a stochastic teabagger, so you're not teabagging yourself, but you're the journalist writing about teabagging, and you tweet a lot about teabagging, you kind of manifest the teabagging. People start teabagging each other, and there might be a high-profile incident like that Alabama LSU teabagger. You can keep writing about teabagging stories, because AI just doesn't know how to do that. AI could tell you how many wrinkles are on the appendage that's doing the teabagging or something, with very scientific precision. But they can't capture the human element, the emotions of of being teabagged after a sports game, or after you win the lottery, or lose, or like win McDonald's Monopoly or whatever, people are doing, or, you just passed the bar exam and you're about to get sworn as a lawyer and boom, you got teabagged. You need humans to write that story. AI can't write that story. So that's why, if you're a alpha male who would like to be a writer of any kind, especially a journalist, start tweeting about teabagging, because then you'll manifest it.
You and Jason Calacanis share Greek roots and seem to have a kinship. What's your relationship with Jason like?
I do feel a real kinship, and I think Jason is a genius, a brilliant investor who invests early into promising ventures. Traditionally, he's invested in, Uber, I think most famously, but, technology apps. I think he perhaps might want to consider investing early in media ventures, podcasts perhaps. He's one of my reply guys, Jason. He replies to me often. He listens to Red Scare. He's a Red Scare subscriber. He's told me that in my replies. Anna from Red Scare, her account got hacked, and she was selling cheap MacBooks with her account, and it was locked, and then she couldn't access it. So I DM'd Jason, because I figure, well, even though Elon replies to me all the time and retweets me, of course, but I don't really have a one-on-one relationship with him. But I did DM Jason to help Anna get her account unlocked, and he was able to do that. He's a supporter of the arts in that he subscribes to Red Scare. He has his own podcast, of course, All In. Perhaps the Perry podcast and All In could collaborate. I'm on top of the tech world, one of the few tops in the tech world, honestly. Jason, also a top in the tech world. That's what we discussed in the sauna: investments and apps that bring alpha males together. Uber would be better. He's told me this. I mean, he's very happy with this investment, obviously, but he said it would be better if it was like only alpha males, alpha male drivers, and alpha male passengers. Women kind of ruined the whole vibe because of woke anti-discrimination laws. They couldn't do that. So perhaps one day, he has connections to the president through his co-host on All Ins. Perhaps we could see some changes to civil rights laws. We have to go back to the, right of association. Part of that is for alpha males to associate with other alpha males. I mean, just imagine just all your favorite apps without women, Twitter without women, X without women. Women would even prefer that if they could just watch. Some guys like to watch, but I think women like to watch alpha males interact with other alpha males, in my experience. Alpha males, they drive the world. Women find them entertaining and exciting. So perhaps, the world would be a better place if women just kind of stayed at home all day, watch what alpha male, some alpha males could wear cameras, or there could, we don't have the camera on all the time, but this is things I talk about with Jason. He's a important VC, and I'm pitching him ideas. But what if women just stayed home all day? We didn't really see them much, but they could see alpha males and just kind of observe. We don't really want their feedback on what they watch, but they want to watch us. Jason totally supports this. And we talk about this in the sauna. So not that we'd want a video in the sauna, but we have to define the parameters of when women can watch alpha males. Really, that's all that we have to figure out. Still, we've agreed on, okay, women just stay at home. We don't really need to see them out on the streets or the workplace or wherever. So we got that done. We know women want to watch alpha males. We know alpha males want to be with alpha males. But we just have to figure out what interactions are appropriate for women to watch and which are just only for alpha males with other alpha males. So we're working on that. We're hoping to launch something special in 2026.
Luigi Mangione, the accused healthcare CEO murderer, was allegedly attacked by 7 ladyboys in Thailand. What should an alpha male do when confronted by a pack of ladyboys?
It was a rookie mistake on Luigi's part. Flew too close to the son, not the daughter, but the son, and wings got torn apart by the ladyboy's claws. People don't know this. Ladyboys do have claws. They are mythical creatures, griffins, really. You can fly too close to the sun, like Icarus. In Luigi's case, such are ladyboys, you could call them Dickerus, but they don't naturally form a pack. They fight each other, just like cats fight each other. Instead of making them all attack you, you have to make them attack each other. So you don't necessarily try to whip them with something, whip it out and smack them or whatever. You point at one and say, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You're the prettiest of them all." And then the other ones, the other 6, instead of attacking you, they'll attack her. They'll attack that ladyboy because they'll get jealous. he went to a good school and everything, and he's supposedly, smart guy. But at Penn, they don't teach you that. At the University of Chicago, where I went to, they do teach you that. It's, part of the core curriculum. You pick one or two and compliment them. Say, oh, you two are so beautiful. Your eyes are so beautiful. You're even prettier than any woman I've seen. Maybe blow kisses to them, blow them however you want. And the other ones they'll attack them. That's just how it works. Psychology 101. So I know the president of the University of Pennsylvania went to Congress because of anti-Semitism on campus. What Congress really should have talked to the president of the University of Penn about was their failure to prepare students, male students like Luigi Mangione, for evade and avoid an attack by 7 ladyboys. Basic psychology. You're not going to outpower them. They're very strong. Play them against each other. Our elite educational institutions are failing our youth. It's a shame.
Perry, we've received a flood of questions from our listeners, alpha males and alpha females alike. Let's run through a few of them.
Let's get to the stack of stuff.
A listener wrote in, I was once obese, but I took the lazy way out and took Ozempic, but I see my error. Does this make me less of an alpha male?
If I just saw an alpha male on the street, I would tell him you have to gain all the weight back and lose it the right way. But because he's a listener of the podcast, I'm granting him a special dispensation. He doesn't have to gain all the weight back. He can just hit the gym. I see ads on TV for Ozempic. They have a catchy jingle. There's another one that's some Algitude or something. I think Serena Williams is in the ad for that. And she's a black woman, and we all celebrate black women every day. Right after the land acknowledgement, I do a black woman acknowledgement. I'll probably in future episodes or with video content, I'll talk about some of the crazier diet hacks I did. I think they're very sui generis and generous. I'll be generous with how I lost weight, but yeah, just hit the gym. You don't have to gain the weight back. That's okay. You did it. However you did it. I don't judge another alpha male, so I won't judge you at all. I respect. I love you. Maybe we'll get some video content. We're just talking about Rush Limbaugh with this video content. I think I need to talk about videos on some of the unique weight loss things. I mean, part of probably to my detriment in life. At some points, I kind of have a need to be unique and sometimes or be clever. When I'm on Twitter, I don't like to just say something obvious, something that like a lot of people are saying, like slop accounts. Where you just like retweet some or tweet some article link. Although I do tweet article links. I had what's the one I tweet? Oh, like BBC Pigeon. I think I tweeted one. It said rectal cancer victim, no poo poo, same hole, no more, something like that. At the end of the day, we're all going to be dead. So, if you want to just take the shortcut sometime, or if it makes your time on Earth more enjoyable, with Ozempic, I guess, if Ozempic gets you to lose weight, you're like being honest with yourself. And it's like, well, if I didn't take this, I'd be fat for another 5 years or something. Then, that's not good. You're kind of losing out on maximizing life for 5 years. And, that's a big chunk. It's better to go through that chunk without being chunky. So I'm very proud of you for working out.
Another listener asked, how does Perry see the role of women in an alpha male's life?
You should be sexually available for him. And it might not be often. Many alpha males are very busy and don't have time to have sex with their wives. But, if he is in that mood, however often that happens, you should be accommodating. Women have a number of holes that are all very pleasant, and, you should keep them well maintained. And alpha males should keep their holes well maintained too. You don't know the situation that might come up. Like for instance, I think in the first episode we talked about the mayor's race in New York and Zoran and schizophrenics covered in urine on the train raping women. That's very poetic. This goes to the question, but it's also going to this tangent I'm on about men keeping their holes well kept, because there's going to be a lot of rapists in New York, and so they're going to look for women to rape, and a lot of women will get raped. But, men can intercept the rapists. If their hole is ready, then the women won't get raped. Like Curtis Lewa, he started the Guardian Angels. You can be the guardian anal and protect the woman from getting raped. You have to protect your woman's honor. There's this thing called cucking or cuckoldry, which is horrible. An alpha male would rather have sex with 10,000 other men than let one other man have sex with his woman. That's called chivalry. I'm sort of like answering the reverse of the question, like what should an alpha male do for his woman? But you should know how to cook things. That's good because sometimes an alpha male doesn't get his fill while he's out, so he's still hungry when he gets home. If he's aching and an alpha male can massage him, you can do that. You can massage him. Basically, you may have to be an emergency alpha male because sometimes there's a snowstorm and he can't be with other alpha males. So sometimes you might have to be an emergency alpha male. It can't be a permanent thing because just because women aren't built for that, they kind of self-destruct or go crazy. And you see that with like these female to male transgenders. They all look horrible because they're not built for the masculine life. They're not. You prepare just for the emergencies. Perhaps I should write a book, make a video on how a woman can be an emergency alpha male for her husband, if there's a snowstorm or if there's a natural disaster. This isn't something that can be expected of them permanently just because they'll lose their mind, even more so than usual. So that's what you can do for your man.
This has been episode 2 of the Perry Podcast. Next week, we turn our attention to the New York mayoral election with a special guest and a few unexpected observations.
I don't really think about women at all. I mean, why would I think about a woman when I could think about alpha males? I'm incapable of misogyny just because hating women, in order to hate women, you need to think about women. And just like, I don't, why do I think about women? I'm hustling and bustling. I'm trying to make 7-figure deals. Like, where do women fit into this? No one wants to be around women. People want to watch alpha males.